back.
Are we?
Hopefully. I just got a...
Is it?
Yep. I just got a notification.
Let me change my little banner because we did not begin at 10 a.m. today. We begin soon. Begins soon. You still have that hiss going on today.
Nothing.
Weird. Technical difficulties today.
Nothing.
That's annoying. Technical difficulties today.
There's interference. It's some interference.
Technical difficulties today. Hold on, folks. Troubleshoot. What is the next level to troubleshoot on this? I could turn this down. Makes me nervous. I've never done that before.
Well,
I could turn this down. Makes me nervous.
it seemed a little better.
Never done that before. We're gonna test. We're gonna see if something is weird here. We've got like a lot of white noise.
We're not sure why.
We're gonna test. We're gonna see if something is weird here. We've got like a lot of white noise.
So I will just recite some poetry as he does this.
Cool. Sounds good.
This is my play's last scene. Here heavens appoint my pilgrimage's last smile, and my race, idly yet quickly run, hath this last pace. My play's last scene.
Okay, pause for a second.
Here heavens appoint my pilgrimage's last smile, and my race, idly yet quickly run, hath this last pace. My play's last scene.
Okay, well,
This
the
is
sound
better.
is not great, but it
It's better.
it's better. So I think. Let me know. Keep me posted. It's hard for me to check because, so in case you don't know this, Facebook and YouTube are on a little bit of a delay, so I can kind of say something and then wait for 10 seconds and hear it there. So that's why you sometimes hear us say things twice. Okay, so maybe there's just something going on. Maybe everyone is on for the last day of school, but so I think there's some background hiss. Hopefully it's not too annoying, but can you hear us? Just let us know, and then I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna let you read some more poetry while I get my cup of coffee. So let us know how we sound here.
Shall we restart?
With the sure.
This is the Divine Meditation number 6. This is my play's last scene. Here heavens appoint my pilgrimage's last mile, And my race, idly yet quickly run, hath this last pace. My span's last inch, my minute's latest point. And gluttonous death will instantly unjoint my body and soul, and I shall sleep a space, but my ever-waking part shall see that face, whose fear already shakes my every joint. Then as my soul to heaven her first seat takes flight, an earth-born body in the earth shall dwell, so fall my sins, that all may have their right to where they are bred, and would press me to hell. Impute me righteous, thus purged of evil, for thus I leave the world, the flesh, and devil. Oh, that's beautiful. Whose fear already, but my ever-waking part shall see that face, my ever-waking part, that being my soul, my ever-wakeful part, my soul, shall see that face, whose fear already shakes my every joint. So he's talking about the great fear that is seen in especially the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament with Jesus Christ and seeing God face to face. It's quite beautiful.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody.
Hello, hello.
We will get rolling here. Sorry, running a little bit late. Had some sound issues, and we might still be having some sound issues. Just let us know. So,
My yes
welcome.
says the sound is good.
Okay, great.
Good. We are missing a dear friend.
We are of great sadness.
Like the chair from Moses at the Seder meal, we have left this waiting, longing for the friend who shall come in days to come. That was really... You can't rhyme come with come, Nicholas. That's terrible. Sorry.
Well, hi, Linda. How are you? Good to see you. It's the first I've seen you on the chat, so good to see you again. I hope everything is well over there in Argentina. And yeah, we'll put Father Greg there in place of Deacon Mersman. It's a sad replacement, but you know, yeah. Say a prayer for Father Greg as he announced that this past weekend that he is going to be moving.
Mm-hmm. That's very bittersweet for me. Because I love Most Pure Heart of Mary. Father Greg has done such a good job there. He's a fantastic priest. He's a fantastic pastor. The people love him dearly.
True.
So I know they're going to be really suffering. I also know, I don't know if it's been announced which priest is coming, but I can tell you the priest you're getting is a really good priest.
Yeah, he announced on Facebook. So
has he?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen this. So Father Nathan Haverland is also a really good friend of mine. I've known Father Nathan well since I was in my junior year at college, because one of my first assignments was with him when he was an associate pastor at Ascension, and he and I ran around together a lot that summer. He's a really good priest. Everybody at Most Pure Heart of Mary is going to be really blessed with him. Mm-hmm. He's a good friend. He's really quirky and funny, but he loves Jesus Christ with all his heart. He's really a fantastic administrator.
He's a convert too, right?
He's a convert. That's true. From nothing. So, he had nothing. He's not like a convert.
They create you out of nothing.
Exactly.
Into this Catholic priest.
Fides ex nihilo. That's fantastic. But yeah, he went to Benedictine in order to study. I don't know what his bachelor's degree was in, but he ended up studying nuclear engineering, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's like a nuclear physicist or something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
he's brilliant. He really is.
Yeah.
And so everybody at Most Pure Heart of Mary is in really good hands. Yeah. Everybody at Prince of Peace is also in really good hands.
So Father Greg is going to Prince of Peace. Mm-hmm. So again, he's a good friend of both of ours. So Olathe is a little bit closer than Topeka, not much, but
half an hour. I mean, what's 20 minutes? 20
minutes probably.
It's about 20 minutes to Prince of Peace, which. Yeah. So I said it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet because it's bitter because he's leaving Most Pure Heart of Mary, but it's sweet because they're getting Father Nathan Haverland, and Father Greg's going to be closer to us. So. Yeah,
so it's good. Mm-hmm. And that'll be really hard. I can't even imagine doing a transfer during this time. I mean, right. Normally it's you say your goodbyes and you say your hellos. I don't know if he's going to say much hellos there at Prince of Peace. It's going to be there's usually like a welcome reception or something. Welcome. I'd love to shake your hand, but I can't. Yeah. So yeah. Mm-hmm. But weird times we are in. That's for sure. And then Father Jerry's going to Lawrence.
Right. Father Jerry's going to Lawrence. And guess what? We have an announcement to make ourselves. We're going to be here for another year.
Yay! So, well, I'm excited. Hopefully other people...
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited.
will enjoy that. Deacon Anthony Mersman, he is just taking care of errands today. So
Yeah.
gotta
He
do
just
those
said
kinds of things.
he went to his barber in Lawrence, and he has to wait 2 hours apparently, which
Wow.
is a long time to wait for a haircut.
It is. See, these are the days where us baldies can rejoice because I cut my own hair with a buzzer.
Do you?
You know,
That's impressive.
so
I've thought about doing that.
well, you might get there.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry.
So yeah, I haven't been to a barber for. I feel like a little bit like Samson. You know, no scissors have cut my hair, touched my hair, but actually no brush has touched my hair for 10 years or something.
Wow, that is beautiful.
Yeah. So I have not had a brush touch my hair for about a decade. So yeah, my last haircut. Let's see here. I started doing my own hair back in when the gig was up, when when I was getting dangerously close to comb over land.
Yeah, you don't want to get there.
Yeah.
There's a certain point when you just gotta cut your losses.
That's right.
Literally.
I admit it. I have no hair on my head. I'm just gonna cut it all off. So let's see. I think I started that in the fall of 2010.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my first year at Our Lady of Unity, 9/10. I think I had some semblance of hair on my head when I started.
That's true, but I got a haircut from a friend the other day, so that is true. Father Kent, you could cut my hair.
I could, yes, I suppose.
Emphasis
so.
on could. We're using the subjunctive there intentionally.
Well, my hair cutting abilities might be as good as my ceiling painting abilities.
No comment. So, I started cutting my hair a lot shorter when I did my 30-day retreat. Because I got to.
Where is your picture? Where's your frame of yourself?
Oh,
We should get your.
I don't know.
That's still outside.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm gonna go get.
So I did
Oh no,
not.
it's right here, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Because this is the.
Oh yeah. So I did not make this frame of myself, just so everyone is aware. This was made for me by the Archdiocese and was used as props during some ordination things.
I'll come over on the camera here so they can see it closely.
So now the first question is, how old am I in this picture? I'm 21, I think, in this picture.
Okay.
21, 22-ish.
That's not the O camera. I gotta take O camera.
I'd been in seminary for 4 years by this time of this picture.
People
People think
give it out a glare here. Let's see.
people think that I looked a lot younger than I actually was then.
I'm not sure if this is helpful. Well, there we go. I got it. There we go. There's little Nicholas. There. You were 21?
21 or 22, something like that. It would have been probably in May of that year, so I think I would have just turned 22.
Very good.
22, as Taylor Swift calls it. So, I had a lot longer hair, and I'd always done, the big, 1950s kind of comb over sort of thing. And I was in the middle of my 30-day retreat, and my 30-day retreat was done with 30 other men.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't interacting daily in any way. And one day I was combing my hair, putting my gel, combing my hair, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, who are you doing this for? You're literally in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota on a 30-day retreat. And so I went and cut my hair and just shaved it. And I kept that shaved look for about 2 years, and then the coronavirus hit. And it just...
Oh.
Not full shave, but I would go and I'd take a 2 on the side and a 4 up top, and I'd just do that.
There you go.
That. And I wouldn't do it. I would have Barbara do it because I'm not that brave.
I see.
But then coronavirus hit, and it just started growing. It started growing, and I couldn't stop it. And so now I still got a little bit more of the comb over after this, but that's because a friend of mine cut my hair, and they just did it I let them do whatever they wanted to do. So.
Yeah, there's no comb over there. You're good. You got the remainder there. You're still in safe territory there.
Right, exactly. So.
But I was getting into really unsafe territory, so I had to stop. It's funny because when you look at your head as a balding person, when you look at it, I mean, I'm going to be clear. I'm not saying that I'm a balding person. I'm saying I'm clearly bald. But when you look at yourself when you are balding, and you look at yourself in the mirror, you think, oh, I got quite a bit of hair up there. Yeah, I'm good. Mm-hmm. And then you see like a picture of yourself. I'm like,
yeah, that's how I am when I see the Facebook when I see myself on the Facebook, I'm like, wait a minute. There used to be hair there.
Right. When you look at yourself in the mirror. So I mean, I don't blame people that do the comb over, because if they don't like see themselves in the mirror or something, or see themselves in a picture or whatever, it's like, oh, it looks pretty good.
Linda, you are right. I do look like Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
I've never.
Oh, you never thought about that?
No.
I have a picture. Let me find a picture for you.
Yes.
Continue on with your balding talk.
Okay. I think I've gone about as far as I can go on that one. So is my hair. It was funny. My niece one time, and maybe I'll go to the camera here while I'm talking about Rachel here. So let me switch over and let's say there to hello Rachel, hello Rosalie, hello Laura, and hello Dryling girls. I hope you're all having a good day. Rachel, do you remember when you looked at me suddenly and said, "Why do you not have very much hair?" It was very funny. I liked when you said that. You don't have very much. Why do you not have very much hair? And then I said, it's because of Grandpa. I guess that's how it works. So, anyway, so there it is. I hope you are having a great day, and we will see you soon. I think we get to see you on Sunday. That's really exciting. So, all right. So I will.
I'm sending a picture over
Okay.
right now.
I accept that.
I think you have to go to your
Open in
downloads.
photos.
Oh, there we go. Good.
Let's see if that happens. All right, so back to the show. Oops, back to the show.
The progression of my hair is actually very fascinating.
That's a great intro. The progression of my hair is actually quite fascinating. What a setup. Let's just hear about that.
Well, when I was a kid, I had.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, you're right. I see that. Holy cow.
When I was a kid, I had very blonde hair, almost towhead hair. And I had really blonde hair until probably I was 20 or so, 19, 20, 21-ish. And then it got a lot darker. So over the course of 2 or 3 years, it darkened. You can see it in the middle of its transition over there, from really blonde hair to really darker hair. And now it's just disappearing.
So, Linda, good job. And I did not know that this picture existed, but
Nope.
Here you go, Ralphie and Ralphie. That's pretty good, really.
There's some slight differences. We got different noses.
Sure. I mean, you're not the exact same person, and you're also a lot older than that fella, but
Right.
that's a funny photo. I'm glad that you found that.
Oh, yeah. My friends and I were pretty proud when we did that.
Yeah. Now let's get your pineapple hair on here.
Nope, we do not need that.
While we're on the topic.
Nope. That is on the big no.
You have to be in a special club to see that picture, I guess. So, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So what are y'all doing? What's keeping your interest here? It's the last day of school for
It's true.
our school kids here, and there is a parade to thank our wonderful staff and teachers. That's today at 4:00. I hope you can stop by and see them at the parade. So and then as you were saying at the homily today, normally this means that you go home, but they're already there.
Yeah, you're just switching off your computer there.
That's right. It's a much different celebration.
Yeah, exactly. I guess more it's like closing out the app and bringing up some game or something like that after that.
Let's see if I can pull up. So we were talking about Doppelganger. So I'll see if I can pull up my Doppelganger here.
Oh, who do you guys think it is? I think it's Brad Pitt, personally.
You have been wrong before, but this is your wrongiest. No, I have never been compared to Brad Pitt. That would be...
Dominic, you like the Star Wars reference in the homily today? Thank you. I was thinking about that. That came up in my prayer yesterday, and I was like, you know what? Today's when I'm going to use that example. So
That's good.
And Empire Strikes Back turns 40 tomorrow. Oh, I didn't realize that. We'll have to throw a party.
Yeah.
The best Star Wars.
Let's see here. Pull up my. There was a thing.
Are
years
you
ago.
doing Father Mark Murtis?
No. Well, there I could do Father Mark Murtis because I do get accused of Father Mark
Well,
Murtis.
that happened to me. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right.
So that picture of Father Kent right next to the parish offices, the first time I came into the church, I walked in there and I looked over and I said, "Oh, was Father Mark Murtis the pastor here before?" And Father Kent's like, "No, that's me." And I was like, "Oh shoot."
Yes, people get Father Mark and I confused all the time. Well, yes, back when I used to have hair, people used to think that I resembled most. That's my celebrity doppelganger, is Hermie from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So.
I need to wait for it to come up on here.
Oh yeah, so there it is. So there was a thing years ago on Facebook where people posted their doppelgangers, and everyone was posting like Brad Pitt or whatever, and I posted Hermie.
That's great.
It made more sense when I had hair, but
Right.
but yes, that is
Long
as
time
close as I
ago.
get to celebrity
In a
doppelganger.
parish far, far away.
Yeah, so if you know Father Mark Murtis, we get confused all the time.
It's something about the way they smile.
Possibly. Well, yes, and then he's a good friend of mine also, and we have done a lot of things together. Prayer group, priest band. He was the first pastor when I lived at Holy Cross there. He was the pastor there.
So like when couples slowly start looking like each other, or like when an owner starts looking like his dog, or vice versa. This is what happened to him and Father Mark.
I guess so, yes. So, but we get confused all the time. Let's see here.
Let's see. Yes. Who was I? I'm trying to remember. A friend, Father Pacomius, who was my chaplain at Conception. I'm trying to remember who he thought I looked like. It was quite good. You can see that. Nope, is it there?
Not yet.
Almost there? Okay.
I'm trying to get myself properly done here.
Dun, 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 dun.
Almost there. Having
Yeah.
a little too much fun this morning, I guess.
Hey, what can we say?
There we go. So people sometimes think that I look like Father Mark Murtis.
Is it up?
It is.
It's up, okay.
So there is that. So celebrity doppelgangers. Very good.
Mm-hmm. What can we say?
There I am.
It's exciting here at Good Shepherd this morning.
All right. So what other besides doppelgangers? What else you got going on here? Do you have anything that you have on your mind there, Father Ashmore, today?
Not off the top of my head.
You've already recite some poetry.
Yes, I have recited.
It has been recited.
Recited.
English is weird that way, you know.
It's strange.
The way things. When people talk about English, I always say it's a terrible language because it has rules kind of, but then just completely.
Well, yeah. In some ways, it's a terrible language. In other ways, it's a really beautiful and wonderful language.
Sure.
I remember I was talking to somebody at one point, and I was talking to them in Spanish, and I did one of those things. Oh yeah, I'm sorry for my language. They're like, no, your language is so easy. And I was like, oh really? They're like, yeah, there's almost no conjugation. And
there is that.
Yeah. So we have the weird verbs and you have the weird words, but you don't have to remember. You don't have to change the word walk too much. All you have to remember is he walk, I walk, he walks, they walked, compared to like walk-in, he is walking or something like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But pronunciation for English is the worst.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
Like, why is it though and it's through?
Yeah, it's true. There's no good reason.
Right.
I remember reading at one point, someone said English as a language is sometimes accused of stealing words, but English doesn't steal words from other languages.
What does it do?
English follows other languages down dark alleys, knocks them out, and then ruffles their pockets for other words.
That is very good. Say that again, please. That was a great.
English doesn't steal words from other languages. English follows other languages down dark alleys and knocks them out and ruffles through their pockets for other words.
I I like that. And we need to put that we need to make a poster of that and put that Father Ashmore 2020. I love it.
But it's really, English is a really fascinating history as a language. Why we are what we are. Why aren't we German? Because we come from a similar root as German.
Right, sure.
So it's an Anglo-Saxon language. I'm not saying it should be the same as German, but there is a similar root there. Why do we have such a conglomeration? Why is it so simple? It's really a fascinating question because German is not a simple language. It's actually a relatively complex language for modern languages, modern European languages. I'm fascinated by linguistics. So,
Yeah, I like linguistics too. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the reasons why English is so simple, they believe, is because the Vikings had to come and learn English in order to work there. And when you have somebody coming into the territory that doesn't naturally know the language, they're not going to speak it as well. And so over time, with the Vikings, English became more simple and more simple over time. That all of the old conjugations and declensions, because if you look at Old English, you wouldn't be able to read Old English. People talk about Shakespeare being Old English. Shakespeare is modern English.
Sure.
Shakespeare has some outdated or archaic words and structures, but it is modern English. It's not even Middle English. So you have Old English, you have Middle English, and you have Modern English. And Old English transitioned into Modern English with the Vikings, and then Middle English, and Middle English transitioned into Modern English with the emphasis of French and Latin and the other languages that were going on in England at that time.
I see.
And French used to be the court language in English, and that's why we have so many French words in English.
Oh, okay.
So up until, I want to say relatively recently, maybe couple hundred years, I don't know the exact date, but relatively recently, when you're speaking about languages, everything that went on in the courts was done in French in English, not in English.
In England.
In England, yeah, exactly. And that's why English has so many French words. Also, we were in the 100 Years' War with France, and there was a lot of interaction going on between the channel. And why was it Latin? Well, because it was the official academic language. So English has all this emphasis from Anglo-Saxon, then Viking, then French and Latin, all coming together. And that's why we are what we are.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a relatively simple conjugation scheme. We used to have a very complex one. It simplified over time because non-natives had to learn English in order to do commerce. And that just simplifies the language over time.
Very interesting.
Exactly. Well, you think of it too, like, both Father Kent and I speak Spanish. We don't always get the grammar right.
Nope.
We don't. Because what happens? When you learn a language, it doesn't come to, it has to become part of you. So you have to speak a language a relatively long time before the grammar becomes inherent with you.
True dat.
And so, if you're only using English for the sake of commerce or something like that, you're going to make mistakes in the grammar, and slowly that's going to break down the grammar structure. Isn't that fascinating?
It is, yes.
And that's part of the reason why Latin transitioned to the languages of French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and some of the other languages, which generally have a more simple conjugation and declension scheme than Latin, because Latin, in a certain way, was forced upon the other countries within Europe. When Rome came in, they had to speak Latin for court things, or if they were doing other commerce or something, they'd have to know Latin. And then that slowly broke down the language, and it became Italian, or it became Spanish, which is a more simple language than Latin. Isn't that fascinating?
It is.
I find that terribly fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very good. Yeah, you have to speak a language for a long time for it. And when I was taking Spanish, like formally classes, it gets a little frustrating when you have to do verbs over and over again. And they're like, I want to learn some other things besides just conjugating verbs again. But those are the things that you have to have when you're speaking. You have to be able to conjugate right away. And I want to say this, and I still get confused on the conditional tense and the imperfect, and when I use that, or the pluperfect or whatever, I still get confused, and so I often
I simplify the language, and if I can use the present tense, I will use the present tense. If I can say something differently, I will. That's just part of the, and then it's sometimes kind of fun. It's also sometimes kind of frustrating. But the fun is like, okay, I want to say this, but I can't say this. So how can I say mostly this and go a different route? And I have to do that all the time when I'm doing Spanish.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting for like translation, because if I'm working with two different couples for marriage prep. One of them just pretty much, they speak pretty much, for both cases, it's the woman that pretty much speaks Spanish, some English, and the man speaks almost all English and almost no Spanish. And I'm
So
like,
weird.
I don't know how that works exactly. But so I had some marriage prep sessions with them, and I recommended that they go to I recommend that they treat themselves to a marriage counselor that they go to every month that is really very bilingual, because and that would be a great treat, because I imagine as they go along in their marriage, it'll be very difficult. You want to say this, and just from my own experience, you want to say this, but I can't say this because I don't know how to say that in the translate in the language. So I have to go about different and say it this way.
And it may not have the nuance you're really looking
Exactly.
for.
So
You may be wanting to soften something a little bit, and it comes out harsher than you really want, or vice versa.
right. So my recommendation for both these couples was go to a counselor to make sure that you are saying exactly what you want to say to your spouse. Do that once a month, and that could solve all kinds of. I mean, it'd be, hopefully the idea would be a great comfort to know at least once a month he is understanding what I'm saying, and I can take comfort in that, or she is understanding what I'm saying. So languages are tough.
Yeah. It's terribly fascinating. I don't know how you would do it. How you would be married to somebody that you don't speak the same language with intimately. Like, really, you don't. It's not part of you. Interesting. Milagros is saying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That's
I'm glad that
fascinating.
Milagros, your English is awesome.
Yeah, she does a fantastic job.
Yep.
Huh, that's fascinating. So people are asking me, so we know that you love languages, and especially those that are useful to the faith, but is there one you would like to learn purely for fun? Michael Sharon guessed Greek, and Jen guessed Latin. The ironic part about both of those answers is that I have studied both Greek and Latin. So
Linda says Cherokee, though.
What's that?
Linda says Cherokee.
I know, I was going to say Cherokee would be fascinating.
Sure.
I don't even know how one begins to learn Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I would love to learn just for fun, like no usefulness whatsoever.
Klingon.
No. I'm not a Trekkie.
Elvish?
Let's see. I'm trying to decide one of the Asian languages. Which Asian language would be most useful or most fun? Like Chinese, or so either that would be either Mandarin. That's really good. Mandarin, or what's the other one?
Do you speak mandolin? No, but I play the Mandarin.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the Mandalorian.
Or the Mandalorian, right? Yes, I speak Mando. Okay, so Gaelic could be really fun. That'd be really cool. Maybe Vietnamese, because we have a lot of Vietnamese people around here.
Sure.
I've been told that I can do a very good Vietnamese accent.
Yes, you have been told that.
Whether that's true or not,
I have no idea.
Japanese could be cool. I think that'd be really fascinating. It's probably an Asian language.
Yeah.
Or maybe Russian,
Yeah.
because then you could read Dostoevsky.
Ooh.
Maybe Russian. It might be Russian now that I think about it. Or Polish. I really love Polish too. I've loved listening to it. It's very complicated, but yeah. So I just threw out 8 languages there. Pick one. But I'm actually, my Latin's pretty good. Not fantastic, but my Latin's pretty good, and I continue to study it. So I'm hoping to get better at it. And my Greek is pretty rough anymore, but if I needed to, I could work through Greek texts. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took, back in seminary, I took Hebrew, Greek, and Latin, and I really loved Greek, biblical Greek, because then again, I like, broad stereotypes. I think my general preference would be I prefer like scripture study, and you would prefer like systematic theology.
Yeah,
would that be
certainly.
right?
Oh, totally. Mm-hmm.
So, so Greek would be more useful to me. Latin would be more useful to you. And so I really loved Greek. I really enjoyed reading the scriptures in the original written language.
It's really
anyway.
fascinating.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And Greek is a fun language.
It is fun. It is fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that was years ago, and my when I was first ordained, I would sometimes like throw Greek words into homilies or whatever. Maybe on rare blue moon occasion, I might do something like that. But that's something when it's kind of fresher. You can throw in a Latin phrase or a Greek phrase or whatever into the homily and kind of explain that and parse that out a little bit. And that was really fun for me back in the day. But it just I didn't find a whole lot of I didn't find that to be particularly helpful for me or for others at the time.
Yeah, you have to. I, as a general rule, try not to do too much of that. Not because it's bad necessarily, but because it can. If you aren't doing it for a very particular reason, it can come off as just a little bit. Oh, he's just throwing out a Latin phrase or Greek phrase just to show us he knows it. And
right. I
try not to do that. And try to. If I'm going to use something from the original text, it has to be really important.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But I'd be the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this kid Jacob who came to Mass. He was studying. I think he was studying Greek at Rockhurst, and he would come to Mass. You know, some people bring their missal. He brought his Greek New Testament into Sunday Mass. I'm like, you're awesome, Jacob.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yep.
I remember so you said biblical Greek. And I had a professor in seminary who I took one semester Greek with. I took 3 semesters of Greek in total, which is nothing. But I took my 3rd semester with him, and he was brilliant. He was also, I think he was truly a humble man, but he also told jokes which made him seem not humble at all. So very prideful, and he would say them in such a way that it could be almost a little off-putting, but I found them hilarious. So one day he was saying, so I was talking to Brother Jude the other day, and I asked Brother Jude, did you know that I read a paragraph of the Iliad every night? And Brother Jude looks at him and goes, no, Father Adam, I didn't know that. And Father Adam goes, ask me why, Brother Jude. And Brother Jude goes, why, Father Adam? Looks at him and says, because I can. And then one day he was talking and he's like, people make a big deal about the difference between Attic Greek versus biblical Greek, and whenever I hear that, I realize they don't know Greek. Because his point was it's all one language, and often people will look at biblical Greek and think it's a particular species when there will be classical elements coming into biblical Greek, if you know it. So I'm not criticizing him, just his point was this, but he's like, they don't know Greek.
Well, sure,
there's a certain vocabulary that you can use in biblical Greek.
Right. Well, and I was clarifying biblical Greek because what I heard, Koine Greek, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's technically Koine, yeah.
Which I was specifying that because it's what I remember hearing back in my seminary days. It was kind of a subpar Greek.
Yeah.
And so it's not actually an elevated Greek; it's a lower level Greek. So I was trying to stress that I don't know real Greek. I just know biblical Greek.
Exactly.
It's all, so
I cannot read Plato.
That's right. I can only read the Bible.
Right.
So that was.
That'd be kind of like the distinction, although I think it's less valid in Greek than it is in Latin. It'd be kind of like the distinction between a Ciceronian Greek, so Greek of Cicero. I'm so sorry, Latin of Cicero, and the Latin that was really that was used in the 10th century, which is just very different. Because,
right.
I mean, you have 10 centuries that are dividing language. But
I took Hebrew, which biblical Hebrew, so not real Hebrew, I guess.
Well, that's the only Hebrew we have.
But that was okay. I did not enjoy Hebrew as much as I enjoyed Greek. But one of the things was I'll put the what is that? It's not the dodecahedron. What's that thing called?
Oh, Tetragrammaton.
That's right. So the Tetragrammaton. One of the most interesting things, and I think it came from my time doing Greek. Let me see if we can do 40. Yeah. Was the idea of the Tetragrammaton?
Tetragrammaton.
So this is the YHWH in Hebrew. You know that original Hebrew does not have any vowels.
Isn't
right?
that fascinating?
I think that's fascinating. And so you have something that looks like this, and I'm not even sure if they have space between the words. It's very confusing. Now,
most ancient languages didn't have spaces, though.
Yeah, probably
because you're working on one tablet.
Right. Not to really tighten in. So, but then later on they added like dots and lines, so you would know. It was a help for people who didn't know. But anyway, I love using this example of this YHWH, which is the name of God, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to use the unpronounceable name for a moment, even though we're not really supposed to, with respect for our Jewish brothers and sisters. But you look at this and you might say, oh, it looks like Yahweh. But that's also, if you don't have any vowels in there, that can also be Jehovah, right? And so that's where does even the name Jehovah Witness come from? It's from the same four letters, because you can put, so sometimes a Y becomes a J, like Spanish speakers sometimes.
Me llamo versus me llamo.
Right. So that Y sound can be a J sound, and sometimes the W sound can be a V sound, like many of the Indian speakers, right? So,
or Latin.
Or Latin, okay. Yeah.
So that's the difference between classical pronunciation and ecclesiastical pronunciation.
Oh, okay.
So Weni Weedy Wiki is how is how Caesar would have said, I came, I saw, I conquered. Whereas it sounds much more masculine in ecclesiastical Latin. Veni Vidi Vici.
I see. Okay.
Weni Weedy Wiki.
Huh. Interesting. So anyway, so that could be, so this is one of the takeaways I had from studying Hebrew, is that could be Yahweh, it could be Jehovah. I think it could be something else too. You put different letters in there.
So Jehovah is an interesting variation on that, because in the Jewish tradition you would never say the name Yahweh.
Right. So there's the other one. Yeah.
You would never say Yahweh.
You never would say that,
because that is the official pronunciation in a certain way of the Jewish faith. It's kind of hard to know, but you would never say that because it was God's name, which is unutterable, and it would be somehow disrespectful. It would be against the second commandment. Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain.
Right, which we just talked about, by the way, last night on Tuesday Night Live. So if you missed that episode, you can go back and watch last night's video. And I know where you're going, I think, but let me pause for a second, because as you were saying that point, you might recall that about 2010, 11 or so, the Catholic Church banned the use of that name in public celebrations.
That's right.
Of the Mass. That was Pope Benedict. And I mean, sometimes Pope Benedict has the reputation perhaps of being kind of not ecumenical or whatever. And so,
which is always absurd.
It is absurd.
Yeah.
But he said, out of respect for our Jewish brothers and sisters, this is not allowed in public worship anymore. So you might remember that song that we used to sing, Yahweh, I Know You Are Near, right? We had to change. That song is no longer allowed to be sung in that way. So it's now they changed the word to, "Oh Lord, I know you are near," or whatever it is. Yeah. So we are unallowed to say that word out of respect for our Jewish brothers and sisters. Because imagine if you brought your Jewish friend to Mass one day, and all of a sudden you're singing Yahweh this and Yahweh that. They were like, "No, it's disrespectful to the name. It's a name you never ever utter. It's the unpronounceable name." And so,
what they would do when they come into the text is they would, instead of, whenever they saw the Tetragrammaton, which is, Tetragrammaton essentially means the four-letter word, essentially. The four-lettered word. YHWH, and I'm not studied Greek, so I couldn't tell you what I've not studied Hebrew, so I couldn't tell you what the exact letters in Hebrew were. But they would replace that word with Adonai. And Adonai means Lord.
Right.
So that's where we get our tradition of calling Jesus Lord. In the New Testament, when Paul is going on and he says, he has a beautiful hymn in Philippians, I think it is, and every knee shall bend at the name of Jesus, and every knee shall bend. and it says at the end, Jesus Christ is Lord. They're saying there, Jesus Christ is Dominus, Jesus Christ is Kyrie, and Kyrie was a Greek word for Adonai. So Jesus Christ is Adonai, which means Jesus Christ is Yahweh.
Right.
So you have to follow it, trace it back. But that's what Paul is getting at there. But they would replace the word Yahweh with Adonai
Right.
at any time. So you just have to know that if you're reading the Hebrew text of the Old Testament. And the pronunciation Yehovah takes the vowels from Adonai and puts them into the Yahweh.
Uh-huh.
And so the idea that Yehovah is a name for God is kind of silly. Because they've taken and they've combined two words, essentially. So it's not against people in Jehovah's Witness, but it's just kind of, it's a strange phenomenon that you would have that name be the name of God.
Strange what?
Phenomenon. Because it's taking two words and you're combining them together.
Mm-hmm.
But even to this day, we, in the Old Testament, in the liturgy of the church, we've never used the name Yahweh. We could, Jesus Christ, but I mean, there's never a time. We've always just used Kyrie, which, you know, Lord have mercy, Kyrie eleison, or Dominus,
Right.
the Lord. And even in the translations of the Old Testament and everything, it was never kept with Yahweh. It was always translated to Kyrie or Dominus, or Kyrie or Dominus, depending if you're doing Greek or Latin.
Very good.
Fascinating, isn't it?
I think so. There's a great song, if you like 70s Christian rock, or Petra, that has a song called Adonai. Adonai. I think it was the 70s version. Petra kind of, they lost, I had to research what happened with their lead singer, but they had a different lead singer that came in after their first few
I've never
years.
heard of Petra.
You've never heard of Petra?
Is that wrong?
Well, my brother was a big Petra fan, so my older brother introduced me to Chicago and Petra.
Would you say that he is petrified?
I think that's the name of one of their albums, actually.
Oh, really?
Might be like a greatest hits, or maybe they had a couple worship albums, and maybe they said they took like they cover songs, and they said we have petrified these songs. So, but I really enjoyed that band Petra. I think I enjoyed their earlier stuff more than their later stuff, but Petra, they actually got kind of harder rock in their 80s and 90s incarnation, but their earlier stuff was kind of like they sound a bit like Kansas, so they're kind of inspired by I think that group. Good music, I think. So
interesting.
Anyway, they got a song called Adonai, so you can go home and listen to that, or stay home and listen to that.
Interesting.
Adonai. Is that the next line there, Carly? Are you pulling out the Petra as well?
Oh man, I've never been so petrified in my life. So, interesting note about translations of the Old Testament. This is just something I was thinking about today. Often the most common translations of the Old Testament in the Catholic faith are the RSVCE, which is a Revised Standard Version Catholic Edition, which is a ecumenical translation of the Bible that has just been adjusted for adding the 5 extra books that we have in our, not 5 extra, the 5 books that we have in our canon, 7, pardon, 5 in the Old Testament. Yeah, anyways, whatever it is.
7 in the Old Testament.
7 in the Old Testament. Facts. You know.
Bible, systematic theology.
It's totally true. It's totally true. I'm a systematics guy. I am. And those would be the original Greek books of the Bible, essentially. So that's one of the most common ones, and that one tends to be a pretty literal translation. There's also the New American Bible. Our Revised Edition is the most standard one today, and ABRE, and that's the one we generally use. Not the Revised Edition, but we will in the liturgy. So when you're hearing in the liturgy. But there is an old translation called the Jerusalem Bible that I actually like the first edition of the Jerusalem Bible. I don't like the New Jerusalem Bible. That's the one you can buy. You have to buy the Old Jerusalem Bible on like eBay. I like the Old Testament of the Old Jerusalem Bible. I don't like the New Testament of the Old Jerusalem Bible. It's terrible. The Old Testament, how it has a great translation. And they actually use the name Yahweh in that, which would not be allowed today.
Right.
But it's it's one of the only translations I'm aware of that uses the name Yahweh in the Old Testament translation.
Yep. So sometimes they either say Lord, or sometimes they, I think they, well, no, I would have to say they might put the Tetragrammaton in there.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
very good. And is that I am? That's when it's revealed? I think, right?
Yes, exactly.
So,
I am is Yahweh.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So remember when God reveals Himself to Moses and He says, "Who are you?" So I can tell everyone who you are, and He says, "I am who am," or whatever, which is YHWH. And then when Jesus uses that phrase several times, who are you? He says, "I am," which is a reference then, of course, to the burning bush and Moses.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. A lot of people ask what translation of the Bible I should use. My answer to that is whichever one you'll read. So if you have one that you like more than others, and it's an official Catholic translation, and I only say Catholic, you could just certainly use Protestant translation generally. I'd be careful about using any that is not done by a general Protestant congregation, because you never know what the other ones might be doing. So I would definitely stay away from any Jehovah's Witness scriptures or anything that's said by the Book of by the Mormons or anything like that.
Right.
But if it's a mainline Protestant translation, it's probably fine. You're just going missing several books.
Right.
When it comes to the Catholic translations of the Bible, I suggest the RSV or one of its variations. There's a couple different ones for study, and the NAB for reading. If you're just sitting down and reading, I think it's a really nice translation just for reading purposes. I have both of them. I use both of them. And if you're wanting to get esoteric, find the Old Jerusalem Bible for the Old Testament. Are there any other translations you would suggest?
Good News.
What is that, like the modern language or something?
No,
like
it's
that?
kind of basic.
Okay.
So, I would probably recommend. So maybe some of you running a little bit long here, but some of you might remember when I did a musical adaptation of the Book of Tobit, and it was staged at Good Shepherd years ago. And when I was writing that, I had different translations, and RSV, NAB, Jerusalem, and the Good News actually turned out to be very helpful because it's very basic language. So it translates really well into what a stage play, how they might say that. Mm-hmm. It's also helpful, I think, for someone who is a language learner too, so someone who maybe is learning English from Spanish or something. The Good News would be maybe an easier translation. They're in the missal. They used to, in the sacramentary, they used to have Eucharistic prayers for children. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't like much until I came to Our Lady of Unity, and then I found that the simplified language might be helpful for a lot of our ELL kids who were there. That was very much clearer language about, that you send us to be people of love or whatever. So when I did the school masses, sometimes I would use that Eucharistic prayer for children. But I don't think they've redone those yet. But I keep on waiting for those. But for an ELL community, for school masses, I found those to be particularly helpful.
ELL,
English language learners.
Okay. So I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they changed it from ESL to ELL.
So Jen, you are right. The Protestant translations won't have all the books in it. Absolutely. Right. So I would always suggest going to the Catholic Bible. But that's not to say if you have a Bible that's translated and approved by a Protestant congregation, it's totally invalid. I mean, it's a translation that just doesn't have all of the Catholic books in it. And generally, Protestant translations are very good. Yeah. Generally, there's really no problem. And often our translations are done in cooperation with Protestant communities. Yep. So,
someone just sent me, or I don't know, I received in the mail the Great Adventure Bible, which is I just got it yesterday. It is the Revised Standard Version, and it's based on the Jeff Cavins Great Bible Adventure series. I was mentioning this at my Bible study on Saturday. I don't know if someone just decided, and I said I'd like to get that. And maybe they sent it to me. Or Ascension Press sent me a copy as a pastor. Here you go, or whatever. Promote this. I don't know, but I'm very excited to have this. It's actually not in this box. It's actually in my car at the moment. But the Great Adventure Bible series, I'm really excited to jump into that. But I just received it yesterday, so I haven't looked at it much yet. But we're running long here. So
okay.
I think that's... did you have... was there something else that came up on the chat?
Final thought. Before we leave this topic, one question. When you come to Spanish Bibles, which Spanish Bible would you suggest for people? I use La Biblia de Navarra, which is a Spanish translation, but it's a very good and accurate translation with really fantastic footnotes. So I love the footnotes in the La Biblia de Navarra.
Sure.
It's got really fantastic. It's an Opus Dei translation, so there's a lot of really good commentary there.
I use my favorite one is I don't know where that. Oh, I think it's it. Let me just see if it's right where I think it is.
The New Living Translation. I'm not familiar with the New Living Translation. I'm sure, like I said, whichever one you prefer, go along with that. And if you have any questions, there's a distinction between what we're going to use academically. I would never use a New Living Translation for an academic study. But if that's what you like when you're reading it, more power to you. I'm not.
So I like this La Biblia Católica para Jóvenes. That's my favorite because I am a language learner. This is Verbo Divina. I don't remember what exactly the translation is, but it's so colorful and nice. It's got nice little things in there. I really like it, and it's understandable for me. So that's the one I recommend. This is my favorite. Even if you, I'm a long time since being a Joven, but Texto, yeah, I find this to be quite readable. So this is my favorite that I have. There's also the Jerusalem Bible, which I also have in Spanish.
Oh yeah, that is good.
But I generally prefer this one. It's easier for me to read, get into.
I think they're looking for two things, and we are getting long, so we'll cut it off really quickly. But I figure we should just cover this topic as we're doing it. There's a couple of different things you'll want to think about when you're looking for a good translation. Are you looking for a study text where you're looking especially for a very accurate language, or are you looking for a study text that has good footnotes? For some reason, generally you don't get both.
Right.
It's kind of a strange thing in English. I think in Spanish, La Biblia de Navarra does both really, really well. You just have to be comfortable with vosotros.
Yeah.
But I am comfortable with vosotros, so it's not a problem. But in English, generally, you don't get both.
Right. New American has great footnotes. Revised Standard does not, but it's the more accurate translation, I think. So.
Exactly. So you want to figure out, what am I looking for?
Yep.
So there we go.
All right.
We should probably get out of here.
We should. Thanks so much, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you all so much. God bless.
Bye.